All right, question number one. So we've discussed, we've discussed, we've talked about it. So data that is used in your district to make decisions, and we're going to have multiple data points thrown out. So let's start in the very back, right here.
We were talking about, and I'm from Fort Rockton, small school district, and we do a lot of online curriculum. We're going to personalized learning starting when we start back on this.
Congratulations and condolences.
We've been one-to-one iPads with no textbooks, online curriculum for 5 years. So we've gotten through that part of it. We're just ready to take the next step into it. But the data part of it is where I've always had a problem. We're trying to take state data and try to beat something out of that I'm not sure is there. And
it's not.
And it's data has never worked for me. So that's part. I was sitting here just.
How awesome is it that someone can, in a meeting of peers, can, because we all have been in that spot where you say, okay, what is valid?
Yeah.
What is purposeful for my district?
And we've been to visit your program. I brought Chickasha twice, in the last couple of months.
And you're still doing this?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
I took my.
Were you drinking when you came over?
Well, I really thought I probably would be on the way home that first week. I took my two that I thought would be my worst critic teachers.
Yeah.
And all they could talk about on the way home is, well, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Immediately.
That's awesome.
But the data is a problem. And learning how to take what we get and use it is a problem.
Love it. All right. What do you got? I'm picking on the back row. Yeah, you can't dodge it. I'll just come back here. All right, what is the data point that you all use?
The data is basically telling us what you've already told us, that the standards that we're using and the criteria to reference tests that we're having, whichever company is doing it, don't work.
Right.
But we keep doing it.
Yeah. So, but when you're making decisions, what are you using?
Well, what we've been told we have to use.
State test. Okay. Somebody else. You guys make decisions on more data points than that.
We use STAR testing.
STAR testing.
Math and reading.
Yep. I've been at a school that was STAR. When I got to Chickasha, the first thing that we eliminated was STAR and moved to NWA, and it's for one reason alone, and that was my own personal experiences with STAR. They told my, I'm trying to think what grade he was in, maybe third grader, that he was reading on an 11th grade level. And so I looked at that and said, that's not possible, until I got into it, and it was, he is a third grader reading third grade material like he was an 11th grader. I said, that's awesome, means he reads fast. He probably didn't know any of it. And I got to thinking, what use is that to me? I don't know. Now, it might have changed, and I don't know, and I'm not going to bash STAR at all because I don't know it. I just know before it wasn't nationally normed, and that's why I went away from it. How many of you use STAR for something? Okay. Do you really use it for anything? Yes. Okay. Because that's one of those things that grade level equivalency, they give you those kind of data points, and that's fine. If that's your district and looks at that and values that.
It's national norms now.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. So definitely doable. All right.
It shows growth over the year.
Perfect. Growth is the biggest. If you can get anything out of all this rambling of mine, is growth.
Yeah, it's growth. We just look at the growth.
Perfect. Something else, another data point. CFAs?
Common formative assessment.
Okay. How many people use CFAs? And how's that structured in your school district?
The questions that we come up with as science teachers.
Right.
They probably will reflect what's going to be on the state test, or just what we've taught in general.
How did that evolve? How did this evolve? Everybody knows this, right? You know this story because it evolved in your district just like every other district. So we get the standards movement, and so we get through that first round and we bomb it. One of my friends was an Algebra 1 teacher. In Oklahoma, if you remember when Algebra 1 test first was done, I looked at his results and I was so angry because I thought, what have you been doing? 11% of your kids passed? So I ripped him a new one. I was good friends with him. I was so angry. And then I got a phone call from a neighboring district and they said, hey, what are you doing in Algebra 1? You guys knocked it out of the park. I said, knocked it out of the park? 11% of our kids? Oh, then the state average was 2%. I was like, oh crap. So I had to call him back in and go, okay, well, remember that butt chewing? I'm sorry. I overreacted. I just saw 11%. So what did we start doing so we could master the test? We started, look, you get those released items and put them in there and let's really practice that. And then those kids are going to be better at taking that test. Is it any wonder why parents rail on us all the time? My first parent meeting in Chickasha, a lady came in, she was hotter and hot, and I'm not talking in a good way, she was mad. My wife didn't even flinch on that. She's ignoring me, that's what happens all the time. So she comes in and she's mad about something else, and she said, I know all you care about is those test scores. And I said, oh, contraire, you haven't met me yet. And we had a great conversation about, no, I really just care about your kid growing. That's all I care about. I don't even know what our test scores are. But we started doing those common formative assessments, and we said, teachers, make it and do this and that. And then that districts started producing those things. And everybody's going to take it, and then we're going to put them up on a screen. Look at Sue. She didn't do much there. Now, Sue might have 40% special needs kids, but we're going to blast her in front of all her peers and embarrass her and tell her she can't teach and put her on a plan of improvement and all those things. But at the end of the day, isn't that just doing the same thing we've been doing? Okay, give me something else, another data point. Dibbles. Bear assessment, literacy first, all those things. We got all kinds of things pulling in, right? Depending on the age appropriate. How about finance? Where's my superintendent friends? Do we ever judge things based on finance? What'd you ask me earlier, Jason? How am I going to pay for this, right? That's what we care about because we got budget this and that and the other, and we're trying to juggle all those things. What is the most important thing we do? This is a bad time for crickets. You should know these things. We teach kids. We are educational institutions. And so we've got to start reflecting that. We've got to start valuing that. And that's hard to do. I'm telling you, I'm living in your shoes. I understand. You're going to get spears thrown at you when you do that. When you say, no, I know we need new light poles at the baseball field, but instead, we're going to do this. I'm going to purchase 150 Chromebooks or whatever. Finance is in there, but we never do that, do we? I never did it. I never did. And so I started really analyzing and looking at how we can do things differently. And then it opened my eyes to what is possible. You know, at our high school, our juniors and seniors can go to USAO for free. We're paying it. You know why we're doing that? Everybody goes, you're stupid. That's you know how much money it's going to cost you? Yes, I know exactly how much it's going to cost me. It's half the price of what it cost me to offer another class at my high school. I'm saving money. I'm saving teacher jobs by doing that. And if you run the numbers, you'll see the same thing. All right. Who's analyzing the data? Oh, somebody said it. Good question. Who's doing dibbles? You are. Perfect. All the teachers doing it, correct? Should be, kind of, maybe, 50%. Right there, we're pointing at people like she's.
I'm saying that the teachers are analyzing our data, we can't.
Yes.
And the kids are also looking at their data, and they know.
Yeah, here we go. Yes. And are you finding success with that?
Yeah. Are we? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of our components. Stop leaping ahead of the program. Get in your row. There you go. This is real important that it's not one person doing this. And this is a cultural shift as well. Because the person that holds the data holds that responsibility. Really what you need to do is be training other people on how to analyze the data. And it needs to be your kids. I was in Warren, Arkansas. Warren, Arkansas did one thing right, student ownership. And it was analyzing data. And I had a little kindergarten girl explain to me her learning path. It was remarkable that this little girl who sounded like a little mouse chirping out was explaining to me what she knew in reading and when she planned on mastering the next skill. I'm like, that's crazy. A 5-year-old is explaining to me, and I sat there dumbfounded in that little bitty chair that I didn't fit in, right? And what a shift is that. Now, I wouldn't recommend the kindergartner doing your finances, but I would recommend them knowing their own path. That's a huge piece. And then this is the biggie. What is success? Growth. Growth. If you can come away with that and keep asking questions based on that, then you will have a successful model. This is so huge. And everybody, if you were put 515 school superintendents in this building somewhere and say, do you make decisions based on data? Every one of them will say, yes. But it's what is it? What data piece? And how valid is it? And some of you are already well down this path. But this is so important because if this is not, if you can't verbalize this and your teachers can't verbalize it and your students don't know anything about it, then you're not really doing it. This is I cannot overstate how important this piece is. Okay, so we are going through 5 components. Well, at the end of this, you're going to have 5 components that need to be in your personalized learning model. The first one is data-driven decisions. How many of you evaluate teachers? How many of you have a bunch that are perfect? I always use this example for data because how flawed sometimes it is. I can go through one of my buildings right now and I could tell you who the master teachers are. And you can do the same thing, correct? I had a friend of mine, I throw him out all the time, he's Superintendent Sulphur, and he came to look at our elementary school and he came to look at our personalized learning at our high school. And we had one of our faculty members died, one of our personalized learning teachers died unexpectedly. And it made the news, and Gary called me and he said, I remember Greg. And I said, how do you remember Greg? He was a master teacher. How do you know he's a master teacher? All of his conversations. How long did you talk to him? 30 seconds. Right? Everybody knows who the great teachers are. But when we evaluate them, I've been in buildings where every person's on a 4 or 5, and that's crazy. Why I'm giving you that as an example is if you're really going to make decisions based on your data, you have to make some tough decisions. And they're not comfortable sometimes, and you will get you're going to get negative feedback on that. Because we've built a culture that everybody's okay. What happens if you go in and you start working with a teacher, you can't teach a lick, I'm going to put you on a plan of improvement, and my sole purpose is to help her become a better teacher. What's that going to look like in your building? What's she going to do first thing? I'm going to go to the teacher's lounge and go, that son of a bitch. He's put me on a plan of improvement. He doesn't know I've taught this for 25 years. He doesn't know what he's doing, right? You got to attack the source. It doesn't matter that she can't teach. Who are we valuing? And teachers will rally around her, will they not? My first, I'm going to give you another story. I was at Locust Grove 10 years. I had a teacher come up to me and say, I know what you're trying to do here. It will not work. Our kids are not, they have low IQs. They're not intelligent. A teacher told me that. And everybody thought he was a great teacher. Everybody thought in that community he was a great teacher because he'd went around and told everybody what a great teacher he was. But the data didn't line up. And then when he got uncomfortable, he left, right? We hired a great teacher. So our kids taking Algebra 1, it skyrocketed. Everybody finally saw what I was trying to talk about, which he was no good for kids. But When a little pressure got onto him, he went to the teacher's lounge, did that whole deal. Who won District Teacher of the Year that year?
He did.
He did. They rallied around him. I cannot believe this new superintendent, he has lost his mind because that guy is great. No, he's not. But it was a tough decision. When it all flushed out, everybody was like, okay, maybe he wasn't that good. We actually hired somebody good. When you start making decisions using data, it makes people uncomfortable. If I go to the doctor and he says you have high blood pressure, I can make fun of the sleeve they put on. I can say my diet's perfect, that is flawed. You have a bad opinion of my high blood pressure. I can blame everybody out there, but at the end of the day, I've got to do something different, or it's going to continue to skyrocket. So component one, data-driven decisions. For a principal or a superintendent, it's the hardest thing to do. And sometimes you have to go into this real slow. Why is that?
Politics of it.
Politics of it. You will get fired. I'll give you, I was a principal at Agra High School, 110 students. We had a math teacher. She was related to our board president of 30-something years. Everybody considered her untouchable. She was god-awful. Like her as a person, truly, but not good. So what did I do? I went to the board president's house and said, we got a problem. You know what he said? No. He said, she's been terrible for years, and no one's ever said anything. We were amazed she got hired, is what he actually said. I'm like, whew, dodge that bullet. Sometimes you got to get out on that limb, though, to show that what you are really about. And it's not fun sometimes. You will create enemies, for sure. Here are some things. MAP data is ours. STAR data could be yours. Credits earned. ACT, SAT results, those are all valid. Attendance, discipline, finance, and we could probably throw in a bunch more. We call this our performance audit. At the end of this year will be our first year to do it, and we have 2 pages, and we track all these data points plus others, staff retention, staff attendance, all those things are data points. Now what you do with it is, again, comes to the what decisions need to be made. Usually it's quite apparent what needs to happen. When we get our percentage growth here, I can tell you, because we just started at Grand Elementary School, we're going to see some phenomenal things there. There's also room to grow, and we'll see that too, okay? Second one is you've got to individualize your curriculum. I'll say this, and nobody believes it, but it's true. You don't have to have an LMS. You don't have to use technology, but there is a trade-off with that. You're going to lose staff because you're going to work them into the ground. We went to Warren, Arkansas. They individualized their curriculum to a point. Their teachers told us privately, look, we're trying to keep everybody on the same path. Why is that? We can't keep up with it. It's not, the grading is intense. There's so much grading involved. Now, we met a couple buildings that were starting to try to incorporate, but they were trying to stay everything paper, pencil. Why? Because in their community, when they tried to bring in technology, why, you don't need teachers anymore. You're trying to replace the teachers. You're going to kill their eyesight. They heard all the crazy things that we hear in Chickasha right now. It is possible. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible. Again, I'm not a salesperson. You can use whatever you want to do, but I would recommend on learning management, pilot some of them, meaning get in there and use and look and see that it lines up with the goals that you've set for your program. The most important factor to consider is rigor. Yeah, I can't even do this without saying things. So there are programs out there that drill and kill kids on standards, and I guess you could use that, but you're going to get the same results. It's an electronic version of the same worksheet you've been doing. Don't do that. You cannot get, I had a parent from another district come and transfer their kid into our district because they were on a said program every day. And she said she already knows this stuff, but they're so worried about that blasted test. I think it's funny, going back all the way back to where we started, the district she's coming from, their kids on average score 1/2 a point lower than ours on the ACT, and they're an A school. And in our part of the world, everybody says that's the best school in our area. It's because they have an A next to their name, but they don't perform on the ACT. They never have. I've looked at historical data on them. They don't perform, but they perform well on low-level tests. It needs to play nice with whatever your measure of success is. So if it's STAR, it would be helpful if you could link those things together. And I don't know that product, and I don't know what those are. And so when you talk to these vendors, these are the questions you need to be asking. Does this link up with what I'm measuring for success academically for my students? If you say, hey, we're still sold with the state assessments, then that don't matter. Because if you're truly personalizing, your kids are going to take off anyway. But you need to be able to place them. I hate to put you on the spot here, but can you explain briefly how our LMS links with NWA? What that looks like?
The NWA test gives them a RIT score, which kind of tells you where they're at in their learning path. That score goes into Odyssey, and Odyssey then creates a learning path for that child. The RIT score tells you, like, not what they need to know, what they don't, it's what they're ready to learn. So it creates the skill path of things that they are mentally prepared to learn in order for them to reach their growth goal. So when they log in, this is a tailored, personalized, sitting there waiting on them, just exactly what they need to grow. And so it lines up perfectly. NWA measures them, it dumps into our Odyssey program, and then it creates the path, and it's very perfect.
Scores and sub-scores, so it varies.
Every subcategory, it's got, it creates right there for you, the way the teachers were doing
Right.
it by hand.
Other products do that exact same thing. Khan Academy does that. It's free. Jason, that's for you. Khan Academy, free. You can create those learning paths with that.
How often do they administer that RIT?
3 times.
3 times?
Beginning of the year, winter, spring. There are products that are more frequently, and again, I'm trying to think who asked me this question. I'm not tied to anybody. I'm tied to what's best for our kids. I'm going to guess 2 years from now, there's going to be another product I'm going to look at and go, this is better. I don't know if it will be or not. I don't know if they grow. Those decisions come back to the data. What is best for our kids? I'm going to tell you this brief story. I hate to kill people with stories, but this one ties it to the personal side of it. Had a kid transfer into our district from another school. Got a call from the superintendent saying, look out. You got crazy mama, daddy, kid's a psycho. Everybody was in here has got that call before. Okay. Keep on moving. Did not know the kid, couldn't tell you their name, couldn't remember anything about it, because you get those every now and then. I'm at elementary school. I'm in a classroom. I lean down and I'm looking at a kid doing the area of a triangle, 2nd grade classroom. When we step out, my principal in the back of the room here, if you need any elementary questions, she'll be glad to answer them, says, that kid came here and we were told a discipline problem. Reading on a kindergarten level, math at a 6th grade level. No wonder they were a discipline problem. They were bored out of their gourd when it was math time, and in reading, they looked like they didn't know anything. They had no choice but to act up. That kid's 0 discipline issues in personalized learning environment. Where they came from was constant discipline problem. If it's so bad, the superintendent's going to call you and tell you that it's bad, it's bad. And I'm not saying he doesn't throw a shoe and go crazy next week, but so far, since he moved in with us, he's been knocking it out. Real important, can you eventually train your own staff? Can you get it implemented, whatever it is, and then be able to train your people? Because you can't afford to bring people in at $5,000 a clip every year to train your people. Or maybe if you can, I don't know, some of you might be off formula. And is it flexible enough to meet the needs of your students, not your faculty? There's lots of these products out there, but do they adapt to what your model is asking it to do? If not, you need a different LMS. You might make a mistake on this. We tend to do that sometimes. Great, kick that one out and do another one. Because at the end of the day, if you're depending on the technology, it has to A, work, B, do what you want it to do, C, your people got to buy into it. And if they don't buy into it, it's not going to work. Any questions on this? Where's Ben? Ben, any? Oh, yes, sir.
On your flexibility of students coming in, have you had students come in now hearing it, and how do you have a committee together to talk to them and say, here's how we do it? Train them real quick before they get into personalized learning? Do you have a test? You know where they're at?
On the student level, pretty much you're dependent on the teacher to place right now until you can get that RIT score. That is one of the downfalls of because there isn't a frequency enough to get that done, and you don't have the flexibility on NWA to test and then just, you know, hey, it's October, got a new one, test them, place them. It is not that flexible. So.
On an LMS, I mean, I think Dave hit it on the head. I think, you know, you could all go into this program and you could be using a variety of different vendors because your needs, what your staff can do, what your staff needs, where your students are at, it's going to be what are the tools you're using. It's going to really play a role in that. And so that's one of the reasons we have the vendors here today. Later in the day, we have areas where you're going to be able to go in and just drill them with questions, and they're going to get to answer those questions.
And look at them.
And look at and demo that product and see what it's like. We feel like that's important. A few things that we really felt like were key just features. Can the student pace themselves? Can they go at if a teacher has to constantly go in and tell the system that the student can move forward, sometimes that can be frustrating. Some schools like that. Once again, your teachers might be the kind of people who need that thing. So, it's going to fit. We feel like it's very important for your teachers to be able to edit that content. So if your teacher can go in and go, okay, well, I teach these standards, but I teach this a little different, and I like to very often to this subject. And so as long as they can go in and make those edits and make those changes, we feel like that's important. So there are a few key pieces, and we actually have a little sheet with some of those that we're willing to share. And that actually comes from Ken Grover in Salt Lake City. He did a lot of really good research about what he looked for in an LMS, and we kind of tend to agree with a lot of those. But I think everybody who's here today does those things, and so ask those questions and start exploring. So.
Someone else had a question maybe in the back. Did I miss them?
Following up on his, when your teacher got that student, you found out kindergarten at 6th grade level, how did they know?
They actually came to us right before the winter testing, so it just happened to luck of the draw. Yeah. And here's the other thing. The teacher has to have the ability, because this might come as a shock, but not all kids value taking those tests. Again, shocker. Here's a funny story. A 4th grade teacher tells me Johnny took that not very serious. Well, Johnny figured out, you know what, all these lessons are lined up and I already know all this stuff. So now all of a sudden the kid starts valuing that assessment because guess what, I'm doing all this stuff I already know. And he came to her and said, look, I already know this stuff, just move me up. I blew it off.
Do you build time like a data day around when you're giving those assessments?
Yes.
Take a look at it?
Oh, to take a look at it? Depending on the building, some buildings, most of our buildings, and Cindy, you might address this is up your alley, but it's more grade level. They get together,
The grade level meetings?
they start talking about it. Is that accurate?
Grade level meetings, and right now we're operating off of live data, so we're not just waiting on our LMS data. We look at our data every week. And so, and the parents their meeting comes home on Monday, so they know, they don't need to wait for a 9-week report card. They know on Monday where their kid stands.
Yeah.
Every week.
There's some wild things that start happening when you start really valuing what we've always done or not valuing it. And one of the things we saw when you go to an individualized model like this, there's not a lot of homework going home. The kids are coming home and their head hurts. They've been engaged the entire time. They're exhausted.
So are you guys doing a standards-based report card or?
Yes. at Grand Elementary School, at our Bill Wallace, which is our early childhood.
Through what grade?
Fourth.
Up through fourth. And then at fifth, it goes to
Fifth, it goes to more of yes, but those conversations, like I said, we're novices at this. Those are those conversations right now that our teachers are having is how valuable is this? You know, because I proposed to my principals, what does a D mean in Chickasha High School, or a C or an A? What does all that mean? It just depends on the teacher, right? You all did it in college. You went through the catalog. Oh, I heard that's a good one. Easy A. Just admit it. Yes, sir.
They were almost highlighted.
Yeah, we're highlighted, yes. They filled up quicker.
On the live data that she's talking about, you use Odyssey, correct?
I am piloting that in 2 classrooms, but we use some other programs in our.
We use
center for
multiple.
What the best program was, that's where we're at. We're trying to see.
So
we're
what
waiting
is your
to see what
live
our
data?
Our live data is, we're using some Front Row, we're using some Adobe Max, we're using Odysseyware, we have quite a few things that we've selected
Mm-hmm.
to compare at the end. If everybody uses the same thing, you don't have very good comparative data, so we're waiting to see.
And we'd be glad to share that with you guys. Quite honestly, rigor is the most important thing. That's what we're looking for. I've got, every one of those has a little different level. Some of them are very gamey looking, and not gamey like dead deer or something, but a lot of bells and whistles, but maybe not substance there. And some of them look like they were designed in a Russian gulag, and the kids are like, oh dear Lord, but they're very rigorous. And so we just start talking with our vendors. Hey, we like this we don't. And they start listening, they start designing based on our needs. So, yes, ma'am.
I came in a little bit late, I apologize for that.
I'll just start again.
Okay, no.
No?
You said
Okay.
that you do-
Everybody's like, I'm out of here. That's ridiculous.
You or don't pre-test kids when they come in.
Yes. We NWA right when we start the year.
And so I hear Odysseyware, what else are you using?
Lexia, which is reading up until 5th grade.
So all of your LMS meet Oklahoma State standards.
They cover the standards, yes. But you should have been here this morning. I don't even have the energy to start on all that again. I will make everybody get up and leave. Flexibility is super important, and we will eliminate, it makes it look like we just shotgunned it, and we did. We'll start eliminate those based on what the data says. That's it. Empowerment. This is the third piece. Who's allowed to make decisions in a classroom? Who's most concerned with student data? And how does change occur in your district? Okay, so the person to the left or to the right or both, answer these three questions about empowerment. All right, time to reel it back in. Question 1, who is allowed to make decisions in a classroom? We have a student teacher. Parents, they involved at all? Should they be? Got some that are overly involved?
I think you need their buy-in.
Explain.
Well, obviously if a kid is on an IEP and has a learning disability, what we do is we sit down at the beginning of each year to map out an individualized plan for all kids, whether they're on an IEP or not. And we show them their pathway to graduation. It's an alternative ed program. So we have the parents.
Us Alt Ed, we're kind of a kindred spirit on this. Yes, Alt Ed's been doing a lot of this for a lot of years.
For a lot of years. You want parent buy-in.
Who's the most vested in that kid? Parent. Do we like them? Every one of you Every one of you's got a crazy parent story. I've got one from yesterday. But do you make decisions based on every parent is crazy? Sometimes we do. We are guilty of this. We set up rules based on the one psycho. I'm guilty of this. I've done it. Everybody in here has done it. We've got rules because we've got parents that don't know how to act. But I can tell you, if you want parent buy-in, how do you achieve that? They've got to be part of the process. What do we ask them really to do? Hey, look, we got bingo night on Friday. It's a big deal. I need you selling popcorn, right? I need you taking tickets, whatever. Hey, it's cupcake day because it's Johnny's birthday. Bring cupcakes and enough for everybody. That's not, parent is not bought into that. They're doing that because they're compliant just like our kids are. 80% of your parents just do whatever you ask them to do because you're the school. They like you for the most part. How do you really engage that parent? How do you empower them? They are part of the process. If I am making this an individualized program for each child, which is really what it is, they've got to understand data. They got to know what is the purpose behind this, the why. This is where you're going to spend a lot of time, and you don't think so. I didn't think so either. But I've spent more song and dance time trying to explain the why, and then guess what? Every time parents are like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. What does this NWA data look like, and what does it mean? Our first year of NWA was not a success. Everybody was confused. Teachers hated it. I was trained in STAR in 1984, not doing it. It's good. Okay. But after a year of seeing the data and explaining it, we got them. Now it's parents. What does this mean when you go to a standards report card or a skill-based report card? We have to know what we're looking at as a parent. The most powerful parent meeting I've ever been in was as a parent, not as the superintendent. And we had a son that needed something changed. And as the superintendent of schools, I've never been able to go in. You think, well, you're running the place. No, you're not. You might be guiding things, but you're not running the place. And so I go in, and we go in as parents, and we craft what is successful for our student at the high school level. Never seen it before. Been around school my whole, I taught high school. I've never seen that happen before. Not like that. But it was all centered around what's best for a child, not parent, not teacher. And teacher, we were communicating. We weren't, this is the way we do it here at Smith ISD or whatever, and you're the parent, and this is what we're doing to your child. That's the way parents read that. You guys realize that, right? They read that as this is being done to my child, just get over there and sell cupcakes. Well, if you start changing that dynamic, man, things change. I asked a parent the other day, she's been a vocal critic of personalized learning. I'm walking down our elementary hall with her, and she was asking a question, a very, very sophisticated, data-driven question, and I stopped and I said, would you ever want to go back to the way we were doing it last year? Oh, no. Never. I said, okay, then you got it. We're growing through this, right? She said, I got it. And then we moved on. Parents get it. We just don't give them credit for being able to think. Most of them can. I'm not saying build your whole school around the crazy one. We all got them too. What I'm saying is they need to be part of what this is. They need to be able to be valuable feedback and give us feedback on what's happening with their child. They're our biggest advocates. Students should be allowed to make decisions in a classroom. Agreed? Okay, this is common sense, right? Do we do that very often? No, we do not. How many of you had the teacher that was, when you walked in the room, you didn't breathe hard, you grabbed that stack of 17 worksheets, you went down, sat down, you copied off everybody because you weren't doing it. He didn't or she didn't care. They were on the internet, looking on eBay for something, Everybody's had that teacher, right? Do the kids value that? Never. Never, 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 never will they value that. Will they learn anything? No. They're not. How many of you had a history teacher like that? Coach. Yeah. I like how there's people doing kind of a T-Rex, throw a T-Rex hand up. I was a history teacher. I take it as a personal offense when I see that. The reason I got into education is I had that guy, and I loved history, and I thought, why won't you bring this to life? This is so cool. You're killing us with this textbook that was written for Texas. We learned the Alamo a lot, but we didn't learn anything. I thought, God, there's so much value in what this could be. You're killing it. I could go on that one forever. Who's most concerned with student data in your school district right now? Don't T-Rex me. Superintendent. Who else? Principal. Anybody else? Counselor, because they did the testing. We don't counsel with them anymore. Who should be involved in this? Students. Students should know their data. They should know what is happening with them. The most personal thing about education is the educational process. But we have trained kids for education to be done to them. And then who do they blame when they don't get it? Teacher. It is your fault that I didn't learn this, right? And that's that weird dynamic we get with parents all the time. Well, you know what we did in John Smith's class the other day? We watched another video. And we watched Dances with Wolves for a week, right? So when they bomb the test, it's in that case, it is the teacher's fault. But we set up that dynamic all the time. So what calls do you get as a principal and superintendent? The first thing they tell me is that teacher picks on my child, right? They didn't say that their child, what they did, do be picked on. Here's the biggie. How does change occur? Where's my Sharon Mutual guys at? They left. I bored them to tears. They're like, holy smokes. I was going to use them as that. Somebody give me what does it look like, honestly, in your district? It doesn't happen. I heard it. Top down. Top down, it's done to me, right? That change was done to me. I didn't want to do that. I told them it wasn't going to work. This is so critical. How many have school boards that drive change? Oh, come on. We're among friends here. Some of you do. You won't admit to it. I was in Locust Grove for 10 years. 8 years, I had the best school board you could possibly want. And then that teacher that was showing the videos, I ended up firing, first teacher I ever fired, ran for school board. It was an awesome experience. The dynamics of our district changed a bit. Everybody told me there is no way he'll win, he's too dumb. And that part was accurate. But he won. It changed the whole dynamics of the district. Change stopped. School board's really important. You have to have a solid school board that is behind what's best for kids. You have to sell this to them too. There's a reason I took my board president to Salt Lake City to start this process. They've got to be part of the process because they are the ones that are going to get a hit up at the little local IGA or whatever. They're going to get drilled. They got to be on your side. How many students drive change in your district? 0, right? Coolest thing starts happening when you personalize. Students start getting empowered. We had a kid write a letter to our elementary principal saying, you know how we watch movies to keep us entertained while we're waiting for school to start? We have a negotiated contract that is like a bear claw on you. So our teachers report on a certain time and they leave, and it don't matter if we're severe weather or whatever, they might just leave with your kids there. I'm exaggerating that part. It might happen at high school, but not at elementary. So we've got these mounted LCD screens up. And what do we do every morning with the teacher's assistant? Plug in a Disney something, well, no, we can't do Disney, something to keep them staring at a screen. And so this kid was like, that is such a waste of time. Why aren't we doing something else? And they proposed yoga. I thought that was cool at I think it was a third grader. I don't know, third grader knows what yoga is. They saw that there was no value in them doing that. One of them dressed up and was the greeter. They greeted people coming to the elementary school. I'm like, how cool is that? That was all student driven. And it threw in the face of a couple of our teachers, I think, because they're like, well, by God, you got to keep them under control and watch that video. And there's more discipline issues with the video watching than anywhere else because they're not engaged. They're not learning. And kids actually like to learn. We just try to squash it out of them. Okay. Here's a empowerment piece. I'm going to start talking specifically about what we're doing. This one's on high school. This is a day in the life of the Student Personalized Learning Campus. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Blaine Boardwine with the Chickasha SPLC. I'm currently headed down to the ag room for my traditional schooling ag class. I'm the Chickasha FFA chapter president, and so it's required of me to have an ag class this year if I want to be an officer. And so with the PLC, I'm able to take traditional classes as well as PLC classes, and that's what I really enjoy about it. I am just now checking into the PLC. I had my ag class this morning in the brick and mortar traditional schooling, and so this is me signing in.
Hi, my name is JC Ponticus. I'm at the SPLC at Chickasha High School. It's around 8:30 and I just got to school, so I'm about to go in.
Poem, The Indian Burying Ground. You use evidence from the poem to support your response. Have you pulled your poem up yet?
I'm doing the same assignment.
You doing the same assignment? All right, well then listen, give us some insight. What have you done so far?
I'm on the question that says read the one Philip phrase, Indian burial ground, answer the question. Is English birds painted gold?
Okay.
Well, not question.
This is
And so what are you searching for at this point?
like how he explored American. Okay, so it's like 11:15 and I just signed out for lunch. I got one English and one trig assignment done. Then after lunch I'm going to be taking my trig quiz.
So right now I'm doing my work at the PLC building. It's actually ACT prep because I'm taking the ACT in October, and so I'm just getting some extra practice in before I take that test.
So I just left the SPLC. I did all my stuff that I needed to get done today. I had my mentor meeting.
Interesting things I had to get used to. Kids will have their phone out, but a lot of times they're on Google because they're trying to figure stuff out. They know how to find information. I had a traditional teacher say, well, you know, they're cheating. I said, what do you think they're doing in your room? They got an app that'll do every math problem for them. But where we started sawing the empowerment piece was we've got kids that go to the traditional side for a lecture in trig that they are not in that class. Why are they there? They want the knowledge. They're there to learn the information. That's what is valuable. They're there to learn something, and then they will get up and leave. They check themselves into tutoring, and then they leave. Ours building opens at 7 a.m. We close at 4. We were open till 5, but we didn't have anybody there after 4, so we adjusted. Our teachers have flexible schedules to cover those times. Our students have flexible schedule to cover those times. We have kids that are there every morning at 7 a.m. They check in, they do their 6.5 hours between traditional and personalized, and then they're off to work. We also have kids that show up later because that fits their schedule as well. Blaine, who will be here later, FFA president, he'll go feed and do all his ag things first. How many tardies do we have? None, because they're just checking in. That's a manufactured discipline issue. How many times have you been teaching you're up in front of your class teaching and here comes Johnny late, and then you spend 1 minute scolding Johnny for being tardy, right? That's a manufactured discipline. Our kids have the freedom. Here's what our traditional teachers said almost immediately. They can tell the difference between the students. I said, okay, what is the difference? This group shows up business-like. They're ready to get busy, get done, get gone. This group's still jacking around. They're not there they're there to comply with what we've asked them to do. This person's there to get the knowledge, get done, what I need, what do I need to know, and get gone. We do not have a reminder for every kid. They all go back and forth. So we don't teach some courses. Physics, you can take it out there, but we don't recommend it. Spanish, we have 1 or 2 doing it online, but they really need to be speaking it in a class. They have all their electives in traditional, like brick and mortar. I don't know where he got that. He's been watching videos or something, but they're responsible for them. Is that not a responsibility, a coping thing they're going to have to do as an adult? We spoon feed the fire out of kids, but they just set an alarm on their phone. I've seen them do it. Hey, time to go to whatever, and they go, and then they're back. We have a check-in system. It's just a couple flat screens, and they all have a code. They check in and check out. Our teachers don't take attendance. There is no discipline out there. One of the 2 incidents that we've had out there was a traditional student got into the building and was trying to pick a fight with one of our SPLC students. Why is there no discipline out there? Just like here, you set by where you want, go where you want to be. We hate each other, guess what? I'm not going to sit next to them. In a traditional, I might be. If our last name of our is similar, then we're going to sit by each other because we're going to do alphabetical order in that classroom, and that's going to be a constant nag. If you don't like each other, just don't sit by each other. It's what we do as adults. We also don't do the manufactured discipline. Our cleanest building in our school system is our SPLC building, and it has the least restrictions on it. It's the cleanest. It's the only bathroom in any of our buildings that's student that I would probably use is that one, because they take care of it. About a month in, a group of students is sitting in the student lounge. You saw a picture of the student lounge. There is a student lounge. They can go, if they've earned the right, they get to use that. They get to earn those responsibilities. But with those responsibilities comes that. You have to take care of the place. You have to be caught up with your work. We have some students that are on a soft schedule. They go from teacher to teacher in the PLC because they can't handle it. But the ones that can. You see how you start building it? It's based on their responsibility levels, not the teacher's responsibility level. Principals, how many teachers have you had that was a great teacher, had 0 student discipline? We have a lot of those teachers, right? Greg Chilton was the gentleman that was on this video. That was just an impromptu deal. That happens every day, all the time out there. Students, they clump up and they group where they're at. They teach each other. My son, who's a freshman at OSU in engineering, I asked him about finals. I said, all right, you got finals week coming up. You getting pumped up for it? And he goes, I've got one. One? What'd you do, drop a bunch of classes? No, it's philosophy, Dad. He's old school. He just lectures to us the entire time. I said, what do you know of philosophy? Not much. What are you doing in your engineering classes? Group projects. We solve problems. Somebody told me again, he's a professor at USAO. How are you preparing them for me to lecture to them every day? And I thought to myself, God, I hope I'm not. Who wants that? No one wants that. I want them to learn something. The empowerment piece, I can't overstate it enough. Our teachers are driving what's happening there. They have already seen some flaws in it, and we're shifting on the fly. We track every kid in the personalized learning campus on a spreadsheet, and it is based on their progress. They're either red. If they're red, we've got to intervene right now. Ken Grover, well, I thought I had him stumped. He was talking to me about this spreadsheet and tracking them, and so I was going to be witty. I'm like, well, what's to keep your kids from just getting up and leaving? What's to keep them? There's nobody on them all the time. And he said that progress sheet will track them, number one. But number two, and this was in November, he said, how many of your kids in traditional high school in your building are on track to graduate? I said, I have no idea. How many of your kids right now are on track to finish this semester with a passing grade? I have no idea. Do your teachers know? No. Okay, all right, Ken, you got a point. You can intervene if you've got the data. You can make decisions if you've got the data. If you trust your teachers, empower them to make the decisions, they will go to battle for you. I have a SPLC teacher he hasn't even been out there yet. He's transitioning to that from the middle school. He is widely known as a great math teacher in our part of the world. He was the most vocal critic of this until he started investigating it. And then he came to and begged, can you please put me out there? I said, why? Because it's pure teaching. This is why we got into the business. My teachers there do not do lesson plans. They plan for their kids. Okay, they plan on what's best for each one of their kids. They track progress, and then they teach. But they might teach 100 different concepts a day. And it bounces based on what that student needs, not what's based on the state standard. We don't talk about that because it doesn't matter. What matters is we hit the level of that child and grow them as far as we can. We keep talking about the growth mindset. You will far exceed state standards if you grow them. Okay. Relationships. The foundation for relationships in your school system. That's a big, broad question. But what is the structure of your school district right now, and how is it conducive for relationships? Okay, talk to the person next to you, left or right. I'm talking about student staff. I'm talking about superintendent, staff, all those things. Personalize. We talked about education being the most personal of ventures, right? It's not something done to you. It's something that you are involved in. So the foundation of relationships in a school system is a big, broad question. So who's got to start on that answer? There's a lot there. Somebody be brave. Communication is a huge foundation. Connection, that is a great word.
And an understanding, they have to have somewhat of an understanding about where we go. Students and parents alike, you know.
Yes.
Students want to know, now what is this, what are we doing, where are we going, what's my day going to look like?
Say that one more time. I want everybody to grab onto this. This is huge.
Understanding, they have to have some understanding, because students are already wanting to know from me, what's my day going to look like? You know, what are we going to do, how are we going to do it?
Or why are we going to do it? Yes.
And so that understanding is huge.
Would you call that maybe a vision or mission, values, however you want to term that? Well, you have to keep coming back to that. When you're talking to parents, that relationship is different. We talked about the good ones and the crazy ones. Even the crazy ones want valued. Crap, they know they're crazy. I've been in those meetings. Dad's looking at mom like, you've lost your mind. When we get in the car, it's going to be a battle, right? But you still have to value them. You still have to explain the whys, and it's got to be based on something. Okay? I would encourage everybody to know what that something is, and that's that elevator speech. We're going to talk about messaging, that elevator speech of why are we doing this? And you kill them with data, but it's the truth. We got to eventually just get to truths, and people can relate to that. They're drawn to it. Use the word connections. Student, staff, it's connections. Who has the best relationships in your building? Think of that person with students. I'm not talking put them in jail relationships. I'm talking about valuable. Sorry, that was a terrible joke. Later in the day, they get worse, I promise you.
Well, I think as you look at it, you've got different teachers that connect with different students, and as you put the mentoring in play with all this, you've got to make sure those students are in the right place.
That's awesome. Have you looked ahead of this? I mean, you've been reading my notes. Connections. Yeah, we're connected. That's awesome. It's different for every child. Who has the best? Think of the person in your school district that relates to kids the best and knows them better than anybody else. What is their role? Who is that? More than likely. Where's my small school people? Coaches, right? Why?
They're with them all the time. It's not academic, it's personal.
If our relationship is U.S. history, and so we've got to connect on that level, and I've got 130 of you coming through my room, right? So are we going to have a deep personal relationship where you can trust me? Probably not. Maybe. There might be that few people, and I can think of a few students that weren't, when I taught, that was like that. They really related well to that subject. When I coached, I can name you a ton of kids that there was a connection with. But it's because I valued them beyond their ability to throw someone out at first, their ability to put a basketball through a hoop. We spent time together. We had lots of bus rides to tell terrible, jokes and all that fun stuff. But then there was a personal connection. Which parents have the best relationships is also usually a coach, because they're going to all those ball games too. It's that sponsor, it's the ag teacher, it's the choir teacher, they are connected beyond school academics. The secret sauce to personalized learning at Chickasha High School is this. It's not the LMS, it's not all the other stuff that needs to be part of it. The teacher will tell you and the students will tell you it's the relationship piece that is the hook. Because my teachers, the mentors, every student has a mentor at Chickasha Personalized Learning, high school, whatever we call it. And they meet once a week, required. We are meeting. We're talking about your life goals. What are you wanting to do in the future? And you're getting ready to see a video that of all the ones I'm going to show you is the most impressive to me, because it's all about a relationship and how that can change a child's life. So,
I was good at school, but I was skipping a lot just because I was like hard-headed and just younger. And like I had my older cousin at school, and I just wanted to be like not at school, you know what I mean? I wanted to be doing, and I just didn't think like it would really mess with me. And then my freshman year, I failed a class, and then my sophomore year, I got like real close to failing, and like I just like it was hard. Like I didn't know a lot of stuff that other people knew because I was not there, and everybody knew. They'd be like, oh, you came to school today, like making jokes. But so I was skipping a lot my freshman and sophomore years. And I just always, like I knew I wasn't gonna fail if I didn't fail from absences. Like I could get in there, and if I went like 2 or 3 days out of the week, I could get enough to pass with like at least a C at the very least, barely coming. So like I passed geometry, like barely showing up. When I almost failed my sophomore year, and I knew like I had a lot to go my junior year, and then my senior year, I just didn't see myself, like, I was like 2 more years and I already almost failed twice. I don't think I can. And then I had my license and I was like, I'm really not gonna go. And I'm older, I feel like nobody can tell me nothing, or I felt like that then. Like, nobody can really tell me what to do. Like, what can they really do to me? Suspend me or kick me out? I already wasn't going, so. I felt like they was wasting my time because I was just thinking, like, what am I ever gonna do that I'm gonna need to know what year so-and-so did this to discover this, you know what I mean? Like, and I didn't plan on going to college. I was like, I'm not going to college, I don't need none of this. I was just like, if I don't need it, why am I here? What am I doing here? They say you can work at your own pace, and they said as long as you're getting a certain amount of hours in, you pick your hours. You know what I mean? You didn't have to show up at 7:45 and leave at this time. You can show up, you know what I mean? You don't gotta eat at this time. You're not being like controlled as much. Like, I mean, I'm a kid still, but I'm not like a kid that, oh, I'm not gonna go at all when you don't force me to. Like, I feel like I don't wanna go when I'm being forced, but when I can go like around when I want, I'm gonna go a lot more. My first mentor was Mr. Chilton, and he passed like recently, and he sat me down because I even was moving a little bit slow, because I'm about to have a baby, and when I figured out that I was gonna have a baby, I was just like, felt like, man, I was doing good, and now like this is ruined. Like, I'm not gonna do nothing. Like, I'm back basically where I started wanting to drop out, and then he sat me down and was like, no, you can still graduate. I'm showing you right here, this is what you got, and this is what you need. They might try to tell you this, but you can do it. I mean, I didn't know that there was grants and like people that would help you. I didn't know that. I just thought if you can't pay for college and you're not playing sports, you can't go if you don't have the money. But then he explained to me a whole bunch of stuff and basically just got me back on track. He's probably the reason that I'm doing so good right now. And then after he passed the part, you know, I was thinking like, I'm gonna finish this. Even if I don't even end up not going to college, I'm gonna finish at least what I'm doing right now for him. Yeah, he told me, I told him I didn't have no money at the time, cause he was talking about taking the ACT, and he said, if you don't have the money, I'll pay for your ACT. And I ain't never had it, like, none of my teachers, they might have been nice to me, but I ain't never had them tell me, I'll give you $50 to go do this, you know what I mean, to better yourself, ever. I'm almost done completely. I think I have English 4 left, and that's my only class left until I can graduate. And now, and plus, like, I didn't know what I was gonna do about going to college, you know what I mean? Like, if I did decide to go, I didn't know like what I was gonna do, but they said you can get credits for college in the PLC, you know what I mean? So I can, like, I'm a junior, so even if I finish all the classes, I can graduate and get like credits for being in college. And I'm not dumb. Like, people might, like, some people that they don't know me, they might think I'm dumb. I'm not dumb. I've never had like I've never been not able to learn, you know what I mean? Nobody's unable to learn, really. And I can just learn at a fast pace when I really want to. But now I can, you know what, like, I finished history and English because they was easy to me so fast. And then I, like, not geometry, algebra 2 and chemistry was a little bit harder. So then I got to take my time on those, and I finished algebra because instead of having to, like, do 6 things at once, you know what I mean? I was, like, focusing on algebra and chemistry. I want to be a petroleum engineer. My uncle's is a tool pusher. My stepdad's a tool pusher. That's like on a rig. It's a rig manager. It's like, without going to college, that's almost the highest you can get. And I just got a couple uncles that work on a rig and a bunch of cousins, and they all make good money, but they all tell me, like, my body hurts. Like, when I'm old, I'm not gonna be able to move. And like, my uncle has a steel plate in his arm. My other uncle has 2 chest surgeries. My sister's dad lost one of his, like, a piece of his finger. You know what I mean? Because when you're working on the rig, you get hurt. And that's what I wanted to do. But then they was telling me you can make more money starting out. You're like, they don't make good money until 10, 15 years in, you know what I mean? And then they was saying, like, you can make more money starting out when you're like 22 in a desk job if you go to college and still be in, like, have to do with the oil field. I was about to drop out, and now I'm trying to get into college and get everything done as fast as possible.
slight improvement for Trevor, right? I met him the day he filmed this. I didn't know him from anybody. My principal did, and she said, hey, you got to hear this. It's changing lives. The relationship piece was so huge. When he was writing back with the principal to the high school, he said, only teacher that ever told me I could do something. Man, that's heartbreaking, number one, but think about his story. Attendance issues, discipline issues, not involved in anything. Do you have those kids? What is their success rate looking like? Everybody knows the star football player. Everybody knows the basketball player. Everybody knows the student council / put in 47 things that they organize around school. Everybody knows that kid. Nobody knew Trevor. Greg Chilton knew Trevor. And that was his connection. That was the thing that turned it around. I can throw up all the data again and bore you to tears with it, and that's establishing the why. But the relationship is what drives the ship. That's what makes this happen. Yes, sir. They were assigned based on knowledge of the student. We interviewed all of our students and their parents before we started this. So last spring, we sat down with all the parents and the students with the mentor and determined whether that was the right relationship or not. Some of them already had those relationships, and we honored those. But the teacher knew that. So, yes, ma'am.
Are all the grades combined?
Mm-hmm.
Well, ninth grade
9 through 12.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you get into the business, that's what you get into it for. And no one disputes that. It's just we've polluted it with all these other things. And when you strip it all down, what is the thing that drives it? It's relationships. You will do whatever for that coach. I mean, think about that for a second. They're asking you to do things that actually hurt. They're not really good for you. Hey, I want you to run your head into that person and do it 47 times tonight. And they'll do that for that person. It's not the joy of slamming their head into somebody. It's the relationship piece. We can get kids to do powerful things if we choose. Notice the goal part of it. The mentor piece is about goals for that student. It's not necessarily academics. Academic gets you to the goal. Trevor changed his goals from tool pusher to petroleum engineer. And he's going to be a dad, but he's still got the goals. It's just we can overcome these things, but we can't do it remotely. We've got to be right in the mix with every one of those kids. Student ownership is huge, huge, huge. I took this picture from Warren, Arkansas. This is the one thing we drug out of this. This is a level 3 reading pathway. They do different levels for their pathways. We do it a little bit differently than this. But in essence, it's you put those skills on there, and these students will be able to tell you what they know and why they know it. And their 3 there is their knowledge level. They do levels 1 to 4 in Warren, Arkansas. We do it differently as well. But the point of it is Owen here flipped up his data notebook and started showing me his journey to learning the skills of reading. That is a form of student ownership. Trevor, what you just explained to you, his path is get these coursework done because I ultimately want to do X. Okay, his pathway is not a color chart, but this is age appropriate. And so that's the first thing on there. Age appropriate is the most important factor. What we do, our student personalized learning, is not applicable to middle school, elementary, it's not. The big concepts are. You've got to have those master teachers and principals in there that dictate what that looks like. But you've got to hit the components. So this made sense to me. So when I looked at it, I was like, that's awesome. That kid is explaining to me what they're doing. You can go to our elementary school right now and ask any of those kids and they will be able to do the exact same thing. Okay? Value the knowledge over the grade. We are battling this tooth and nail right now. It is a battle. I have people, the 4.0s are pulling out of personalized learning. I've had 2 pull out. Not because they don't value what's happening, they want their child to be valedictorian, and they are convinced, and I can't convince them otherwise, that that valedictorian scholarship's really not that good, because there's 70 of you. How many of you have multiple valedictorians at your high school? Everybody? Yeah. My first year at Locust Grove, I sat through 19 valedictorian speeches in a graduating class of 100. Isn't that absurd? We all know that, but we can't tell the parents that. We started telling them that, and it's made them mad. I understand they set a goal and want to be valedictorian. There's 19 of them. 20% of your class is valedictorian. It's really not that big of an accomplishment. Also tells you a lot about the grade inflation that's going on. I point to the fact that our kids here, they will pre-test and then start wherever they're at high school level. That's a big deal for some teachers. They cannot let go of that. My middle son will tell you, Dad, when am I done with American history? Which hurts my feelings. He said, I've had it in 5th grade, I've had it in 8th grade, now I'm a sophomore and I've got it again. When are we going to let it go? I get it. I mean, he does get it. He doesn't understand why we have to keep doing that all the time. And he's right. Value the knowledge over the grade. We're working on goals for life. We had a career day in 3rd grade. We got kids on video talking about what they want to be in life. That's the connection piece to what am I doing? What am I trying? Why is this English important to me? How does your English teacher explain that when they say, hey, we're studying Macbeth? How do the kids react to that? Good Lord, more Shakespeare. Right? And then how do they explain it that's important? It's a classic. Okay. So is a 50 Ford. I don't drive one. Right? But that's how we explain things. Well, we've always done that. Come on, get on board. What's wrong with you? No, what's wrong with asking that question? Why is this valuable? Ownership, again, of the site. Our cleanest building's personalized learning campus. There's a reason for that. We had a group of kids sit down and they're working in the student lounge. Kid comes up from non-PLC. We label them the traditional lights. I don't know what we really don't, but kid sits down. They go, what are you doing here? Well, I just come to hang out over here. Hey, we're working. Oh, okay. So he gets up and leaves and he didn't push his chair in. And the kid said, hey, you forgot something. And the kid looked at him like, what's wrong with you? Push your chair in. This is our place. Wow, okay. That was 2 weeks in. Kids get this stuff quick. This is our environment. Don't mess up our environment. The kids' number one complaint is too many traditional kids trying to get over there because they think the snacks in their machine might be better. It's really about the same, but none of it's really good for you. But it's that unknown from the traditional side. They think it's, hey, you get to wear a hat over there. I don't know if you noticed in the video, there's like 2 kids wearing a hat because that's not a rule. It doesn't matter. You can wear one so no one cares. So they don't try to wear a hat all the time because they don't care. Cell phone, you know what we teach them on cell phones? Same thing that just happened right here a while ago. This gentleman that was sitting right around here somewhere had a phone call and he needed to take it. So what did he do? He walked out back there and he's on the phone right now listening to me talk about him, right? Well, guess what? We teach our kids to do that. Why? Because that's the adult thing to do. That's how we do it. I don't know if that's an important call or not. How many of your kids get phone calls during the day and then chemistry teacher freaks out on them? Hey, their grandmother might have been in a car wreck. Now, it might be something stupid, but who am I to say if that's important or not? Get up, walk out, don't disturb anybody, let everyone else learn. Those are life skills. And those are it's all wrapped up. I'm like glazing into the surface of this. But those are big life skills that we need to be teaching our kids.
With the SPLC, you don't have anything holding you back except for yourself.
When you put the students in charge of their own education, especially teenagers, when they feel like they're in charge, they take more responsibility and more ownership over what they're doing. They really care more about their education.
Everybody's different, it puts you where you're supposed to be, what math level you're in and like reading. I'm learning my things that I need to know.
It has helped his confidence because it's showing him that even though something might be difficult, he can still do it. And if he pushes himself, he has more of a pride about what he's doing versus something that just comes easy to him and he mastered it really quickly.
You can work freely on whatever you want. Say you want to work on English for a week and get ahead on English. You can do that.
I like it better whenever we just get to do this stuff because I like to do the hardest things first, and then I like to go to the easy stuff and then get that stuff over with, the hard stuff over with. These are our checklists. This is math. This is what we do in the morning. And this is reading. This is what we do in the afternoon. There's this little box. If you get the question wrong, it pops up. It shows videos and a class and 3 classmates' names, 2 or 1, down at the bottom of the box. If their name pops up, you go and get them and they help you. You're getting help by like your friends, and also it could kind of be like your family. Everyone in your class is your friends and family. You can get help by the teacher. She's also like your mom or something. And it's really nice to have help by your friends and family.
Student ownership, you can tell that, again, these second graders, fourth graders, whatever, they've just been doing this since Christmas. And they can already verbalize what's happening in the classroom. They can already tell you the difference. That's the coolest thing. I was asking the little second grader there, really boil it down for me. I don't know anything about this. why is it so different? I'm never bored. I'm never bored. I'm always working at what I need to be working on. And for a second grader to recognize that, hey, this is not, I already know this. They just they know how to play school, so we're breaking that deal. The group of students that have the most difficult time transitioning into this, advanced kids. Advanced kids are the most difficult to get adjusted to this. Why is that? They're not used to struggling. Yeah, I'm making A's. All of a sudden they're, holy moly, this is hard. I have a parent that is moving their child out of our district because she's too challenged. Parent's a teacher, of course. They were worried about the grade. We're so worried, we're hung up on that instead of the knowledge. I'm like, God, why wouldn't you celebrate the knowledge? That is incredible growth. It's about the grade. The grade, the grade, the grade, the grade, the grade. The grade's not important. You guys saw how inflated they are anyway. So, yes, ma'am.
What percent of your students at high school campus are special ed IEP kids?
11% for the personalized compared to 15%. I had that graph up earlier. I think it's 15.4 and maybe 11%. So there's a difference. But we've got, people will tell you this is only for a certain type of kid, and that's so flawed. We see tremendous growth with our special needs population, and they love it. If you were to take some of them and say you have to go out, you'd have a fight on your hands because they're seeing success for the first time because we're getting at their level, and they have time to spend on their level. We don't have much in our district, district-wide. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't want to throw out a number without knowing it.
So, your math teacher, or history, or science, did they struggle beginning with it? Because you've got kids in algebra that are from here to here. Algebra 2 are from here to here. Are those teachers struggling with whenever I was teaching, I'd have to review. The week ahead, I'd review, make sure I knew everything. Are your teachers kind of struggling with that?
At first, absolutely. And that's part of the growing pains we experienced. We actually had one teacher trying to clump them together, which defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to accomplish. That person won't be doing this next year.
So are they just going and just kind of reviewing everything and making sure that?
Great question. So here's how it's structured at the high school level. Each teacher posts when they have seminars, and we call them seminars, you can call it whatever you want, and for 30 minutes on these times every day, they're teaching lessons, and they're based on where the students are at. So if it's Algebra 1, all right, this 10 kids are struggling with quadratic equation. They email them and say, I need you at this meeting or this meeting. We're going to do 2 of them on quadratic equation. In history, it might be Gettysburg Address. It varies based on the subject. And then they do, our teachers are teaching lessons, but it's based on where the points of confusion are at with the students. It's not driven by Oklahoma State standards. It's not driven by what's easiest for the teacher. It's solely driven by students.
I mean, you've got these data points that are kind of going at their own pace. But there's places in there that we're bogging down.
Yes, absolutely.
So they're focusing in on those places where those data points are kind of
Right.
bogging down,
Yep.
and working through those, and then we're speeding up through these.
Yep. Sometimes you will see, and you saw the video where the students are naturally clumping. Right. Most of the time when you walk up to that, they're working on the same thing. They just say, hey, I'm struggling with that. What about you? Awesome, let's get together, boom. I've been in rooms, we have LCD screens where they will plug in one of their Chromebooks, and they're all looking at the same thing. They're all doing a virtual lab if it's that. Or
The other piece of that, which we didn't put in the video, but which happens is the student, because they're empowered, tells the teacher,
Yes.
this is where I'm stuck. And so they don't even have to.
Yeah, that is a 30 times a day event. I pick up my Chromebook, and I'm struggling with Gettysburg Address, and I plop down with history teacher and say, please help me.
So
that's what I mean. When I say pure teaching at the high school, it is, think about this. When you taught, you had to get up and hook everybody, right? We called them focus questions or whatever. But when you taught, you got up, we all learned these skills. I've got to grab everybody's attention, so it's got to be a little flash and awe here, and then I'm going to pull you in and explain why Macbeth is important. I'm trying to sell you this knowledge, and I'm wanting you to buy it. We flipped the script. The student is showing up wanting to buy your knowledge, and you're selling it to them. That is the big, big difference. I don't understand this. Please help me. And that's that light bulb moment.
Let me ask this question. How did you guys address the issue of academic? Because here's the thing is, I know we use Odyssey where there are ways to cheat.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you can go out and Google and get every answer.
Absolutely.
In a place. So how do you manage that?
When it comes to the assessment for each unit, that is in those. Some teachers, it's in that room. Some teachers, it's assigned in your area, but a teacher is with you.
So you lock it down to where they can't do the assessment.
Right. Has to be assigned.
It has to be assigned
Right.
and done within the class.
Yeah. Now, yeah, they're not going away and taking tests. Yeah.
So
And we had kids do that. I mean,
all tests have to be proctored, is how you.
basically, yes. We had kids do that. But when you're meeting with your mentor every week, I sat in as a parent and watched an English teacher go, you don't know this, and you don't know this, and move them backwards. You don't know this. We've been talking about what you're supposed to know, and you can't communicate it that you know it. Pretty soon, kids figure out, okay, I can't cheat them, you know? And that's awesome as a parent. I sat there and was like, yes. Because I would have been that student. I would have gamed that up and got out as, you know. That mentor piece is huge. So it's not just the technology driving this thing. There are project-based things that are intertwined in there. And that's something early on our teachers said we need more projects. We need less drill, need more projects to show an understanding of the concept. We do labs. You know, our science teacher is in the lab, but she might set up 3 different labs for 30 different kids. So, question?
Just a logistical question that has to do with eligibility and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a kid that's doing a traditional program plus like your FFA student, traditional program plus they're doing the
I couldn't get it straight either. SPLC, we'll call it.
how does that all blend together? I mean, at what point do you say this kid may be ineligible here?
Everything goes into Power School. We run, that's our student information system. The teacher, though, in the personalized learning is responsible for eligibility, just like they are in a traditional classroom. So you look at how are they progressing, what are those grades. They have to make that determination. They do that every week. Yes. It is more complex. It is easier in Power School just to hit print, and you can't do that, not yet.
So does that Odyssey-ware grade report they get interface with Power School and upload into it, or you have to manually?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know. That'd be a teacher question when they get here. They'll be able to answer that. So.
I don't know about the Power School, I know it does.
Okay, well, I vomited on you with all this information. I will say this, we have people here that if you want to pull to the side, my elementary folks are in the back. They're trying to get up and leave, but so sorry. Data and parent here, and then I'm available as well.